From the fictional film Battle of Algiers, on the afternoon of January 1956, female FLN operatives planted bombs in European Algiers. The explosions killed 4 and wounded 50, and a Muslim was killed by pieds noirs, people who are born in North Africa but of European descent, in retaliation. This unfortunate event was caused by the Algerian War of Independence, when the French captured Algeria in 1830 and transformed it into a French colony and controlled Algeria for the next 132 years. During the French immigration to Algeria, especially post-1848, many Algerians were left extremely poor. The French were allowed to take whatever they wanted and become the privileged of the society and leave the Algerians for dirt. For example, the French settlers were allowed to buy and confiscate land from the Algerians. In general, the area was full of tension, with numerous conflicts and clashes between the French and the Algerians. In November of 1954, after the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, the Revolutionary Committee of Unity and Action were encouraged by the French defeat to the Viet Minh, and they decided to create the Front de Libération Nationale, FLN, or National Liberation Front in English, to overthrow their tyrannical French reign. They had hoped that Algeria would be theirs once more and free from any country's rule. Throughout the Algerian War, the FLN turned to the use of terrorism to resolve the conflict. In 1954, the FLN was no more than just a merger of smaller groups with the same purpose: to rid Algeria of the French reign and to control it. By 1956, all the nationalist organizations in Algeria joined the FLN, except the MNA. The MNA was an organization founded to counteract the endeavors of FLN, but sadly for them, it was later disbanded by the FLN's armed wing, the Armée de Libération Nationale, or the ALN. The ideology of the FLN was primarily Algerian nationalist. Its political self-legitimization was drawn from nationalism and the Revolutionary War against the French, socialism, and Islam. Its nationalist perspective consisted of anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism, which is something that still remains of the Algerians' foreign policy. They committed themselves to socialism, but follow Arab socialism, not Marxism. They deeply believed in the equality of everybody and rejected the idea of different classes or castes in its society. Islam was the main foundation for the national ideology and was a crucial factor in strengthening Algerian identity. The FLN's armed wing, the Armée de Libération Nationale, or ALN, used guerrilla warfare to defeat the French. Guerrilla warfare is a form of regular warfare in which a small group of combatants, such as paramilitary personnel, armed civilians, or irregulars, use military tactics including ambushes, sabotage, hit-and-run tactics, and mobility to fight a larger and more stationary traditional military. The use of terrorism was used as a military tactic. The FLN is an example of revolutionaries who used terrorism as a means to win independence. The FLN did not have a strategic alternative to terrorism. Terrorism was used to gain support from Algerians as well as against the French. Basically, terrorism helped to keep the revolution politically alive. The FLN committed many terrorist attacks during the Algerian War. On the afternoon of Saturday, 26 January 1956, female FLN operatives again planted bombs in European Algiers. The targets were the Automatic on Rue Michel, the cafeteria, and the Cocardi Brasserie. The explosions killed 4 and wounded 50, and a Muslim was killed by pieds noirs in retaliation. This was the Battle of Algiers, where the FLN and the French Algerian authorities faced off. Also, teams that were led by Ali Lapointe set bombs in street lights near trolley stops, and they blew up a dance club where 17 died and almost 200 were wounded. The police and the army present were horrified by the FLN terror. At the end, the FLN lost this battle. In March of 1962, Algeria gained independence from France. The French government had signed the Evian Accords and a ceasefire agreement with the FLN. After full independence followed, and the FLN took control of the country, political opposition in the form of communist organizations was outlawed, and Algeria was embodied as a one-party state. The FLN became its only legal and ruling division. Immediately after independence, the party experienced a severe internal power struggle. The political bureau of the FLN was created in 1962 by Ahmed Ben Bella and Boumediene. Since the FLN used a socialist Islamic ideology and effective propagandizing, it allowed them to enable Ben Bella to become the first president in May of 1963. In 1965, Ben Bella was overthrown by Boumediene, who held tight control of the leadership of the party and government until his death in December 1978. During his rule in 1965 and 1978, the FLN party functioned mainly as an ideological apparatus, while power effectively rested in the hands of Boumediene himself and his Council of Revolution.